Welcome back to Don's Life. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining today. Today I'm going to demonstrate the installation of Putco's virtual blades with daytime running lights. Let's go. So today we have partnered with Putco. We're going to install their virtual blades, at least a couple offerings, on my GMC Sierra AT4. I've got my Grille overlay taken off. We'll have a look more at the installation a little later, but first I'm going to talk about the product and the wiring, at least in concept, so then you have a better idea of what I'm doing when I put it on the vehicle. Now, one thing I wanted to point out right away, if we look down at these right here, these do have a sequential startup sequence that you can program into the light bar, whether it be the amber or the white color or a combination of each. They do a little light show for you when you first turn them on. It's really no different than the Freedom Blade on the back of my GMC Sierra AT4. I'm not sure if you watched that video, I'll link it up here. But the startup sequence is just for a few seconds, and then it operates as a normal tail light bar, or in this case, it acts as a daytime running light. So that animation isn't happening on the go, it's just when you initially start it up. So here we have a couple different offerings. We've got a pair of 8-inch DRLs with the white and amber, and they do some sequential startups. And then we have the 37-inch bar right here, and it has white or amber and also does some sequential startups. There's also a 32-inch bar. You can also get 15s. But this is the configuration we went with. Very simple to wire up. So let's take a closer look at one of the products. We got the 37-inch virtual blade right here. You can see it has these mounting points already attached to the blade. It is flexible, but also extremely durable. The LEDs are housed in polycarbonate, which is very strong, but this flexibility is key when you have a bit of a curve to the front of your vehicle. You can see that I can bend it no problem. So they supply you with a bunch of cable ties, and you can easily cable tie it to various areas that may exist in your grill. For me, it's really easy. If I was to just hook it up to the mesh here on my grill, I could do that and I'd be done, but I have some different openings I think that these will slot into nicely. That's why I went with 2 8-inch and 37. I really won't know what it looks like until it's done, but that's part of the fun of an install. The LEDs they use are high grade and high power, and to hook it up is going to be super simple. We simply tap the DRL circuit or the headlight circuit on the headlight, make sure it's grounded, and they'll automatically turn on when you turn on your headlights or your DRLs. I'm probably going to hook up mine to a switch, but I'll show you how easy it is by hooking it up to the DRL as well in this video. There are some other wires that have some extra functions. So the green and the orange are the common ones that you're going to use. We have a startup tap to change the startup sequence, and then we have a pattern tap. So you can ground each of these out to switch between the amber and the white and the different sequences that they have. And then we have these guys here, the white and the yellow. They're going to be used for the work blade function. So it's not something that everyone's going to do, but you can do a strobe effect, and then you can change the speed of that strobe by using these wires here and hooking them up. Now, if you are going to use this as a work strobe light, it is necessary to pair it with the Luminix remote control. This is going to allow you to turn the work strobe function on and off with this remote. Let's look at the easiest way that you can install these. So once you've decided where you want to put it and you want to fish your cabling over towards where your electrical connections are going to be, you just need to decide where the cable ties are going to strap on to your grill. So with this Grille overlay, it would be really easy just to slot it in somewhere like there, which I might end up doing at some point. But I'm going to complicate things because this is my YouTube channel. I'm going to recess mine in this spot here. Now, I don't have mesh to tie to, but I do have some supports that I can look at strapping this around with some cable ties. I think I'm going to go with a much larger cable tie, which I have some, and then we'll strap it in there. So they do supply you with some if you want to do the easy install to something like that with the mesh, but if you need to do something a little more complex or you need a little more room, you might have to get some bigger cable ties. I'm going to take some time and try and figure out exactly where I want to put these. I do have my Grille overlay already detached, so I can kind of work with in here. Pardon me, it's dirty in there, but because I want to recess them a little bit, I wanted to take this off just so I could have better access. But I'll worry about that, and once I get those figured out, I'll explain how I did it. I don't know how well it'll show on camera because it's hard to record my hands in behind here pulling cable ties tight, but that's probably what it will involve. But then when we're ready to hook up the electrical, I'll show you how I'm hooking it up to my switch, and I'll show you how easy it is to tap the fuse for the headlights and have them turn on automatically that way. You probably noticed from the time lapse, we got the virtual blades inset into my grill. Let's have a closer look. So here we have the 8-inch. They're nice and firm in there, both sides. And then we have the 37-inch in the middle. It bows a little bit right here, but I just wasn't able to quite cinch it in completely tight there, but it's tight on both of the ends. It's not going anywhere, that's for sure. Now, the reason why I didn't put you through 10 or 15 minutes of instructional video on how to secure these to the grill is because I have this overlay. So all I did though, and I'll explain it, is there are these structural braces in behind, just like this is attached with a cable tie, this bottom piece. This top piece is attached with cable ties. So I just use that premise to help these stick in behind the grill. So they're there right now. It's all with cable ties. I did put a little piece of metal strapping on a bolt that just hangs down behind this one so I could suck it up to the metal strapping. So that's why it's nice and tight. But now everything is in there and it's not going anywhere. Okay, so let's talk wiring. This one here, the wire comes out this side. This one here, the wire comes out that side. So the wire comes up like that and the wire comes up like that. The box that controls these is going to be located over here where my finger is. So I had to run the wire from here over to the box, but it actually terminates about right here. And then there's a connector and it's all fished in behind the grill cavity that exists in here. And then that box wasn't able to go any further out. So it's actually tucked in behind this plastic here and snug and secure in that area. It's under the shroud, so there's nothing blocking the shroud. But the box looks like this. This is for the 37-inch bar. But under there is where everything is strapped in behind the grill, but also up that it's not going to be directly getting any airflow or water on it because it's protected in behind this area. These are weather rated, so I'm not worried about if it gets splashed, but that's where they are if you're wondering. So make sure before you do any mounting, especially if you get a pair of lights, is flip them different ways. Test them ahead of time. That's why I have that rat nest of wires over there, and I'll explain that. But play with them with different orientation, and then you'll be able to figure out, is this amber on the top or white on the bottom, and vice versa, which we'll show you during the demonstration. But I wanted to make sure I knew the orientation. That's why I had a piece of tape on the back of those ones earlier, and I have a Sharpie mark on the back of that one showing which way is up. So that way I knew exactly where to put them. Now over here is all temporary. Don't judge. This is not how I finalize my wiring. And that's Mrs. Dawn's life over there, creeping on me. You guys said you wanted to see her more in the video, so there she is. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so ignore this rat's nest, but first off, I have my C-Tech Pro 25S charger right here, not because the battery's dead, but I can put it in supply mode, which we'll be doing when we do our demonstration, because that way it can supply all the power that we need to do all these diagnostics, all the testing, the full demonstration without draining the battery. So really nice feature with the Pro 25S. So earlier I said I would show you how to do the fuse tap. So this is a fuse tap wire that they give you. It's just a piggyback. If we lift up our cover, on my GMC Sierra AT4, one of my headlight circuits is located right here. It's a 20 amp fuse, and this is a 7.5 fuse for the light bar. This is just for demonstration purposes, but I'm just showing you with it tapped right there. And then with it grounded at a ground source, I'm going to be able to show you how to have these automatically turn on when I turn on the headlights. That might be how you decide to hook it up. That's not how I'm going to complete my installation. I'm going to be installing the positive and negative to my switch panel right here. So that's just a personal choice because I don't know if I'm going to want these on all of the time, but I thought it was important for me to show you exactly how this would work in automatic mode if it was connected to the fuse tap for your headlights. So I'm going to show you that momentarily. Now that brings me to the rat's nest of wires. So this again is temporary. I'm just going to have it hooked up with, bad connections, just with electrical tape, so I can temporarily show you what the programming looks like, what it's like to have a remote connected, so I can show you that strobe function. I hooked up a temporary ground wire here. So for the 37-inch bar, I hooked up the pattern tap so we can do that remotely for the work light and for the different patterns we can show the lights. So I'll demonstrate that, but that'll just be on the 37-inch. We'll demonstrate it because this is all temporary. Again, I'm gonna clean it all up, put it in there, run it to my switch, and then I'll demonstrate how we can change the startup sequence, and we can also change the speed just by grounding out these wires. So if you do this installation, you want to make sure from the wiring harness that you keep them somewhere nearby in the engine compartment, that you can just tap them on a ground source if you want to change up how they behave. Otherwise, they're going to stay exactly how you program them, and they'll be like that until you decide to change it. All right, so let's change this to supply mode. Okay, I'm going to ask Mrs. Dawn's Life to help me with this demonstration. She's going to run the camera. I am going to turn on the lights, and then these should start up. I've already set them to be the same startup sequence, but I'll demonstrate to you how we can change the startup sequence, how we can do the strobe, at least for the bottom one, because that's what I've hooked up so far. Remember, that's a work light function. You need the remote if you're going to use strobe. Otherwise, it won't work if you don't have the remote. But let's get started. Okay, we got the camera ready. All right, I'm going to turn on the headlights, and these should start up. Let's go.
Ooh.
Okay, so there's the example. Now we'll show you the various modes and some programming. Now I'm going to connect the green wires here, and I'm going to ground them out, and they should show us the same patterns when we go to change them for the different startup sequences. So I'm just going to tap these. So we have that one. You have that one. The timing's off a little bit because some strips are longer than others. So there's that. So I think I showed you all of them. I think I like this one. So I'm going to leave it there. And now for the remote, just to show you convenience and the work mode function. So it's only hooked up to this one right now. I can push this button and the strobe light is turned on, or turn it off. So if I turn it on, now...
Panic, people.
Yeah.
The cops are chasing them.
Now I can use B, and I can change what the pattern's going to look like. So, like you can see here, we've got quite a few variations. And I'm going to leave it on that one for a second, because now is where I can show you how we change the speed. This should change the speed of this strobe. There we go, so that's slow. Slower. Really slow. Really slow. Really slow. I'm going to get it going fast again here. There we go. So I'm going to leave it on fast. But you can see we have lots of choices when it comes to the strobe effect. It is quite mesmerizing, actually. So that's your demonstration on some of the functionality. I'm going to be hooking up the other module here for this remote. That remote is already for that module there, but I'm going to clean all this up and do it properly. Again, I'm going to be hooked up to this switch, which is just inside the cab here. These are my switches. I have a spot ready to go. I just got to put a label on it there, but I'm just going to turn off the lights right now. And because these are on a relay, those will just take about 5 to 10 seconds and they'll shut off. So if you do hook this up to your headlight, at least on a GMC Sierra of this version, there you go, see they shut off. They will have a delayed turn off, but it's not for very long. It's also important to note, because I know you might have questions about the wiring and you might reach out to me to have them answered, but please, before you do any of that, please look at the instructions that are available on their website. It is not very difficult at all. I printed them off here. So from how to secure them, to what each of the colors does, to wiring in the remote, and even a visual of the remote wired in. So instead of the fuse tap, which is right here, that's going to my switch. This ground is going to my switch. The remote is connecting to these color wires, which they mention back here, which ones you use and which ones you won't. They tell you which ones to be left out for programming that wouldn't be done by the remote. And you're pretty much good to go and in good hands with Putco's instructions on this one. So let me get this cleaned up and then we'll do a proper demonstration, not only in the daylight outside, but also in the dark. Well, I'm happy to say that we have everything connected. I got a couple things to show you here. So first, just some nice touches. I've bundled everything up nice in beside the headlight. I've got these labeled for top and bottom for all the programming, and I have a gold-plated connector right here, so it's not going to corrode. All I have to do is just take the wire, ground it out in there to this bolt, and it'll change whatever programming we have. Now you might be asking yourself, Don, why would you hook it up to your switch? Again, that's a preference. You could have it automatically come on with your lights, but it's so I can do things like this. So I can turn it on at any time without the lights having to be on. And then of course I can change all the programming there. Now I labeled these top to bottom for programming. What I've also done is I've labeled the remotes for top and bottom. So I can turn on the bottom work mode, top work mode, and of course I can change the pattern. So bottom, top, however I want to do it. Lots of options, or just go back to solid. There we go. So I'll just show you how easy this is. Let's change the top one and say I want to have them orange instead. Tap it in here. And I can pick, there's a nice solid orange. Maybe I want the bottom to be solid orange too. There we go. So that's solid orange. Then when I turn it off, I'll turn them off, turn them back on. The startup sequence is all orange. So now we've adjusted to a new startup sequence pattern. Now that I'm done with these, I can tuck them away. So right now we're orange. I'll turn them off with the switch, and now we'll turn them back on and we'll have a new sequence. And when they're done the sequence, they should be orange. There we go, orange. So I'm just going to turn off my switch with my remote that I have as well. Put down the hood. I'm going to get some daytime footage. I'm going to get some nighttime footage. It's going to be mixed in with a lot of the other lights that I have too, so do not get confused, but you'll know which ones are the virtual blades. It's these two 8-inch and the 37-inch. So I'll be right back. So that concludes today's video of the install of the virtual blades. Remember, we got the 8-inch pair and we got the 37-inch blade down below. Thanks again, Putco, for partnering with me, making this happen. Always a pleasure. I'll leave links in the video description down below, and I'll leave a promo code. Usually it's Don's Life, depending on the time that you're looking at the information down below. Maybe there'll be some savings. Hopefully there will be. Anyway, check them out. Definitely check out the website. Way more things than what I've been able to show on the channel. But if you like today's video, hit that like button. Please consider subscribing, and we'll talk to you next time.